Elle, question for you. Who do you think has it worse right now? DJ Uiagalelei, just as in general, or apparently any woman wearing a dress having to use the restroom?
No. Correction. A romper.
My bad. Apologies.
Welcome to the Elle Duncan Show with Gary Streisky. Yeah, oh man. We're going to get into college football.
Sure.
And old DJ Uiagalelei, who feels like he's been in college football for 10 to 12 years and still feels like he's trying to learn
He's learning.
Thing.
He's figuring things out for sure.
And why the FSU Boston College game on Monday has now elicited the greatest search in history.
Oh my goodness.
For a man who wrote a check that his mouth cannot cash. It's disgusting, and we'll get to all that. But hey, Gary had a nice little Memorial Day.
It was the exact kickback that I needed. First and foremost, thanks for the invite. It was awesome.
Yeah.
All right, at the Omar and Elle Residence. And my favorite thing to come out of this was the blossoming new friendship, although we are entering harvest season, of your dad, Clark, and our friend, Randy Scott. Who knew these two were just peas in a pod? Linked generationally at the hip.
Yeah, it's like stepbrothers. Do they just become best friends?
Yes,
the answer is yes,
definitely,
they did.
For sure.
Randy Scott does not live near where most of us live. He lives just outside of Boston. He historically travels very far.
Yes.
So he doesn't come or get the invite a lot just because he does not live anywhere near us. But I asked Randy if he wanted to come and kick it on Sunday at the crib before we get, ready for the dog days of summer to officially be over. And he came, and my dad, just like the movie Twilight, has imprinted onto him.
It's awesome, dude.
He saw someone of his age and stature.
Ish.
So at some point, Randy comes up to me and he's like, "I love your dad. I'm also not sure that your dad knows how old I am." I was like, "Why?" He said, "Because he just keeps talking about athletes from like the 60s.
I was present, thankfully, for one of these conversations that Clark and I were having about old school boxing. And sure enough, here comes Randy walking across your kitchen. It's a cavernous kitchen, so it was multiple steps before he got there. And then Clark was like, "Hey, Randy, you remember when Ali fought Liston?" It was like, that was like in the 60s. You know what I'm saying? Maybe 70s. I don't know. And Randy was like, "For sure."
Yeah.
And he got like, you remember Dr. J in the dunk contest, right?" And Randy was like, "For sure, dude."
He's like, "Remember that day when they banned the skyhook because of, of what Kareem was doing? Well, Lou back then. Remember when he changed his name, Randy?"
And Randy, because he's a historian in his own right, was like, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do." So therein lies how Clark became best friends with your dad, Randy.
Yeah.
And Clark and Tony, they are frequent listeners of the pod. So your dad's going to listen to this and be like, "You damn right." He also remembers, Randy said he remembers when they signed the Declaration of Independence as well. So like, hey, it all works.
Remember when they took that peach basket and said, "Let's make some basketball"? My dad is just a historian by nature. So if he feels like he can connect with you on history,
For sure.
Randy played into that by knowing some of his history.
Definitely.
My dad was like, "I got an in. We're going to talk about history I'm surprised he didn't make his way to World War II, which is also one of his favorite subjects. Speaking of which,
World War II.
Just call this World War 30, I guess, in the WNBA. We are just a handful of games left in the season, guys. We're getting closer and closer to the WNBA playoffs. I'm so excited. The Big Three will be back holding down the ABC playoff games. Those are going to come to you on Sundays.
That's fire. For
the most part. So we're excited to get back in the saddle. It's been a bit of a break here for the summer for me. So I'm pumped. But
damn, this is what you call a break. Girl, you're working 8 days a week.
Correct. And alas,
so now you're about to start. So now you're about to start working.
So
cool.
now we're really about to start working.
About time, Elle.
Got to earn this check, man. And despite the fact that we have some really compelling races coming down the stretch, we honestly don't know who's streaking towards the championship. Maybe it's not the teams that we thought they were. Maybe they are. We've got a Rookie of the Year race. We just got so many incredible storylines. We've got the Indiana Fever being the absolute talk of the league with how they have turned around their play since the Olympic break. And yet we are still back at the tried and true subject that we've been at for like 6 months now. Is the league being too harsh on Caitlin Clark?
Where there's smoke, there's fire, Elle. I have to lean towards yes, based off of recent evidentiary findings.
Oh, God.
Come on, Elle.
Okay. So this is all born of, for those of you that don't know, this is all born of the Chicago Sky Indiana Fever game from Friday, a game that we talked about with Rebecca Lobo, who accurately predicted that the Fever would be a tough team to beat if they continue to play the way that they have been playing. And that was proven correct. It was a blowout, okay? The Fever step into Chicago on Barbie night, and they absolutely boat race the Sky. Two teams who've been moving in different directions. That's been well documented. Chicago, after they traded away Marina Mabry, sort of had a fait accompli. It's like, we don't think we're going to make much of a push. We're building for the future, whatever. The Fever streaking in a totally different direction. They've got the longest win streak right now in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark has a career game on Friday. And for those that felt like it wasn't much of a conversation, they felt very solidified that the Rookie of the Year conversation is over after that game. It has to be Caitlin Clark. No more arguing any of those things. But instead of any of it being about that, and then the Fever again winning on Sunday against the Dallas Wings, instead of the conversation being about any of those things, and the fact that in our ESPN Power Rankings, the Fever have now leapfrogged the two-time defending champ Aces. Like, instead of any of that, we are right back at where we were before, because Diamond DeShields has a flagrant foul with the game firmly out of hand for the Chicago Sky. And it has begun a rehash of the same argument that we have been talking about for months, which is that, is the league unfairly targeting Caitlin Clark and trying to hurt her?
Elle, I don't think, one, we need this. We need two teams a la Bulls v. Pistons, Isaiah v. Jordan. So this, as a net positive, is good for the league. I made mention of it. Hey, maybe it was too much of an escalation or a meteoric rise that the people who are entering this WNBA sphere and having to want an opinion about it. Hey, maybe the WNBA doesn't have the infrastructure right now as a total fan base to handle this influx of all of these differing opinions. But I think as a total net positive, this is good. I think what we have to hone in on is not the league being too mean to Caitlin Clark, but specifically the Chicago Sky. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Elle, what we have to do is follow trends. All you have to do is look at the numbers. The Fever are 3-1 against the Sky the entirety of the season. Did the media help sort of build up these rivals as Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, who obviously aren't the best of friends anyway? So it was right there. But of the handful of times Caitlin Clark has been flagrantly fouled this season, 4 of them have been by way of the Chicago, won every single game. So when you take a look at whether it was Kennedy Carter, and that was obviously an uproar of epic proportions, but the Diamond DeShields thing, which you pointed out, the game was out of hand. Caitlin was clearly on a break. And if you watch the replay, Diamond DeShields body checks her, and it was a flagrant foul. So I think this is the bed that the Chicago Sky helped make anyway.
Okay, so here is the numbers that people are sort of focusing in on right now to, in their mind, punctuate their point that this is a league that is targeting Caitlin Clark specifically. 17% of the W's flagrant fouls this season have been committed against Caitlin Clark. The Chicago Sky responsible for 80% of the flagrants that are committed against Clark. As you mentioned, there's 5 and 4 of them have come against the team. Rebecca Lobo, as she always does, tried to offer a little bit of perspective here. When she tweeted, she went back and said that Clark has been flagrantly fouled 5 times in 32 games. If you went back to last year, it was Satu Sabally, who was flagrantly fouled 4 times in 38 games. And then the year before, it was Ariel Powers, who was flagrantly fouled. It's really hard to say.
It is.
5 times in 35 games. So her point there was to say, like, there always seems to be a player that leads the league in flagrants, and this is pretty on par with what we've seen in other years. And certainly nobody spent any time saying, do people want Satu Sabally to get hurt? Are they jealous of her? No one's done that. Now, I wanted to do some additional research and context setting, because that didn't satiate people either. They still said to Rebecca Lobo, oh, well, but specifically the Sky, or specifically this and that. And what you're saying is that she's still being fouled more flagrantly at a higher clip than people we've seen over the last 3 years. And the beautiful thing about the internets now is that you don't even have to have a whole research team like we do here to help you out. You can just literally do a little bit of Googling. And that's exactly, Google is your friend. And that's exactly what I did. And it turns out someone actually did all the work for you. I'm going to give a shout out to Stephen No, I hope I'm saying his name right, from Sporting News. because he actually posted an article that looked at every single one of the flagrant fouls against Caitlin Clark this year.
Okay.
Because while I understand it's not a thing people appreciate anymore, there are nuance when it comes to fouls. And so we're going to actually put all of these fouls that he highlighted here on the show as well, so you can judge for yourself and take a look at them.
Okay.
All right. So we take a look at the very first one, and that was Aari McDonald.
Okay.
For the Sparks. This is back in May. She contests Clark's 3-point attempt and was in her landing zone, right? So you can clearly see here, there's nothing dirty about this particular flagrant foul, right? Clark was bringing the ball up in transition. Caitlin Clark's one of those people that can literally pull it from the logo. It appears here that Aari was a little surprised about how deep she was going to pull up. And she tried to make a decent contest, and then she ended up landing in the wrong spot, all right? We can put that one to bed. Flagrant number 2, Kennedy Carter. This one has received more headlines and attention than maybe any other play in the entire league this year.
Okay.
All right. There's been plenty of dissecting about their relationship. Certainly we talked about it in this show that Kennedy Carter has in the past. What a great year for her, by the way. Probably could get comeback player of the year. That she has in the past made some questionable decisions when it comes to keeping her cool. In fact, I'm pretty sure she leads the league in flagrants, or she did at some point. In fact, she's got 4 flagrant fouls this year alone. She's a bit of a chippy player.
Okay.
I think we can all agree this was not a basketball play. Caitlin Clark said so herself. That wasn't a basketball play. Looked like a lot of frustration. Looked a bit retaliatory based on a play that had happened earlier where Kennedy felt like Caitlin was hit her and fouled her hard as well. We've already agreed that that one was not a basketball play. Flagrant number 3, Angel Reese, Chicago Sky. If you take a look at this one, what's happening here? Right? Caitlin Clark's going up for a layup. Angel Reese is trying to contest. She's clearly making a basketball move to go to the ball. She does not hit the ball. She instead hits Caitlin, and Caitlin goes flying to the floor. You know what this reminded me of? Reminded me a lot of the flagrant foul that Caitlin Clark was assessed for doing the exact same thing on Jordan Canada.
Okay. Jordan
Canada of the Dream going up for a layup.
Okay.
Caitlin clearly going for the ball, misses the ball, hits her in the head. Jordan Canada goes flying to the ground. Certainly no one asked Caitlin if she hates our neighbors to the north and is trying to target Canadians.
Because obviously the answer is yes.
It just was it just was one of those. Caitlin, after this Angel Reese blocked or contested layup attempt, said that is a basketball play. It's just a part of basketball. Okay. Let's absolve her of that one. And then of course we've got 2 flagrants that happened the other night, right? Which is really where all of this came back. The first one that you look up is Michaela Onwenu. She's trying to stay with Caitlin. She gets hit with another one of those nasty Caitlin step backs. And again, was very over aggressive in the closeout.
Okay.
Very similar to the very first flagrant that we saw with Aari McDonald.
Okay.
Bad closeout. Landing zone fouls are dangerous. That's why the WNBA banned them. But just a couple of years ago, those were not fouls in the WNBA. Okay, let's be clear. Closeouts, stop it. Now, when we look in the NBA and we see closeouts, people putting purposely their leg out to try to hurt someone, we say things like, that's dirty, that's dangerous. When you look at this particular play, it's just a closeout gone wrong.
Closeout fouls can be career ending, especially if those ankles
they are not. But what are they? They're not intentional necessarily, right? And there is no way you look at that. They can be dangerous. Just like if you mess up and you hit someone the wrong way in football, you can end their career, you can end their life. There is a difference, though, between committing a foul that can be dangerous and saying that someone is purposely trying to hurt someone. There is a difference there. I don't look at this play, and I can't imagine any basketball fan is looking at that play with Michaela and going, she was trying to hurt her there. It was a bad closeout. Just look at the tape. And then the last one, which is the one that ended up on the front of the paper for the Chicago Sun Tribune or whatever it was DeShields, as we mentioned before, Diamond DeShields. And she, with a 27-point lead, had already fouled Caitlin Clark. And then like 30 seconds later, fouls her again by your estimation. You said for body checks her. Okay.
I mean, that's what it was.
All right. And as a result of this, Diamond DeShields has posted some of the comments on her Instagram. People saying that the tumor that almost cost her ability to walk, that she had removed back in 2020, wishing that the tumor had killed her instead.
Sure.
Wishing that the tumor had caused her to be paralyzed. Like, this is where we're at. When we make snap judgments and assessments on people that they are purposely trying to hurt someone, and then giving license to these losers to hop into her timeline and say they wished that a tumor would have killed her. This is, I keep saying that the W timeline right now is my least favorite timeline, but it's because of things like this. Now, hear me out, Gary. You want to have some conversation about whether the Kennedy Carter or the DeShields flagrant fouls were boneheaded mistakes, were basketball players. That's fine.
Yeah.
There is a reason that flagrants exist. Flagrants exist because there needs to be some exception, right? When you talk about the severity of injuries or the severity of fouls, and that's why they exist. But 90% of the time when people are assessed flagrants, it is coming from a place of poor judgment, like an inadvertent swat to the head, which we have seen done to her and seen her do. It's coming from a place of frustration or sometimes just being out of control and not being able to check your body. We can recognize all of these things. Why can't we get to a place where we go, damn, that was a stupid and costly foul there and you shouldn't have done it, as opposed to it being an entire indictment, again, on a league hating on one particular girl and victimizing Caitlin again. And this is my frustrated part. Caitlin Clark had a career night on Friday night. The best stat line she's ever put up.
Yeah.
For a woman who makes history almost every single time she steps onto the court, and she was still even more exceptional in that game. Instead of us talking about that and maybe putting the Rookie of the Year competition to bed and how they're on the longest streak in the WNBA and how they're not only going to make the playoffs, they're not going to tiptoe in like we thought. Instead of keeping the main thing, which is how much freaking fun the Fever as a whole are right now. The front headline is a shot of her falling to the ground and looking like a victim. Caitlin Clark is a dog in the best possible way. And her play is not only dictating, but demanding that we talk about her play. And we are still on this. And it is so frustrating. And I don't know Caitlin, but I imagine it's got to be frustrating for her too. Or for Kelsey Mitchell, who, by the way, leads the team in scoring and has been on a historic tear for that franchise. Or for Lexi Hull, who was a defensive specialist who all of a sudden has found her stroke and a spot in the starting lineup. Instead of that, we are yet again encapsulating that game. The enduring image from that game is her falling to the ground after a tough foul that was called a flagrant, as it should have been. No one's arguing with that. We are now again making it a conversation about protecting Caitlin because she's going to make all of these women so much money and they're so jealous and they hate her so much. It is so frustrating, you guys. I'm begging you. 2-9 Fever, fine. You want to just keep Caitlin Clark's name in the algorithm? Fine. You want to come up with these storylines because you don't have anything else, because they're 2-9 and you don't have enough bandwidth or acumen to study or look at any other storylines? Fine. But we are 6 games from the postseason and we're still on this, when Caitlin Clark's play alone dictates that we talk about her play. She's begging you to talk about her play. Y'all, stop it. Stop only exclusively using her name to either weaponize or to confront people. That's all it's become. Every time Caitlin does something amazing, some of her fans, not all of them, some, because I'm a fan, by the way, noted Caitlin Clark fan. Some of her fans take that as an opportunity to slide into someone's DM and be racist, or to attack other people who at one point said she shouldn't be on the, let me go pull receipts from 6 months ago and call you a bunch of names and call you a stupid moron and tell you that you're a Caitlin hater. She is playing her off. And there is an entire faction of disingenuous people who are using it to attack people. And it is so gross. Stop it. And yes, I'm talking to you too, Gary. Stop. I've never wished so much to have a conversation about Caitlin Clark sneaking into the MVP race. I'd rather have that. That's a much more compelling argument. You know why? Because it's based on her play. It's not based on anything else. What else does this girl have to do? Backflips on her head while she makes baskets so that y'all will talk about the actual basketball? Talk about the basketball.
That'd be pretty impressive. Caitlin Clark on a historic tear. She's about to occupy the WNBA's record of most points accounted for in a single season, not by just a rookie, by the WNBA.
Let's talk about it.
37 points, 37.3 points per game. That being said,
that being said, and there it is.
Well,
it's always the that being said.
No.
Caitlin Clark has done all of these historic things. That being said,
what I'm saying,
does the league hate her?
No.
Do they want to hurt her?
The league doesn't hate her.
Are they jealous of her? It's so lame.
The league has done a good job in that it's built up enough real estate that we don't have to silo this off for just, hey, let's just talk positive about Caitlin Clark. Let's talk about the learning curve, the ups and downs of this dynamic of Caitlin Clark putting this league on the forefront of everybody actually wanting to have an opinion. I stop short of saying caring because of the things that you say. And obviously the vile things have no place. It's like a fire that you throw a blanket on. You don't give it air. You let it die. We license it out, so to speak, when we mention it. And I even hate mentioning it because it's in like, oh, wow, okay, it's getting air. It's actually getting traction on platforms with people.
But you're able to say that from a position of privilege because you're not the one getting attacked that way, Gary. It's easy for you to say, let's not give attention to these miscreants. But these miscreants are nasty. And whether we can just say it's as simple as get off social media then, Diamond, like don't pay any attention because who cares, right? Like you don't know these people. It doesn't matter. People actively wishing for you to die because they have already in their mind, there is no more swing voting when it comes to this, Gary. And that's the frustrating part. There is no more swing voting. If you believe and have believed since May that this is a league filled with bitter who hate Caitlin Clark, then every single time you see one of these plays, it's confirmation bias. It's like, see, you've already made up your mind. And if conversely, you're on the side that says, I'm sick of y'all, I'm not paying any attention, and there is no more open-mindedness when it comes to this. And that's the frustrating part. We just ran through every single one of those flagrants. And I guarantee you these comments are still going to be filled with, you're a Caitlin Clark hater.
It's not even the Caitlin Clark.
Not a single person that actually looked at any of the nuance behind it.
It's not a Caitlin Clark thing, but just like the internet does the research for us, so too do the referees. Everybody knows that a flagrant is already an elevated and escalated foul. It can be a personal foul that the referees have to review no matter what to assess a flagrant. So when they review it via video evidence, it's the collection of referees that actually have to escalate the foul to a flagrant. So whether we want to say, okay, subjectively, you can decide whether or not this deserved to be. No, it's an objective call by the referees who are saying that this is beyond a personal foul. Now, if you want to get into
it's very much a part of the league, of every league. A flagrant, a targeting, elevated fouls are a part of the league. They're baked in for a reason because they happen.
Understood. So so with Draymond, so let's say, for example, these referees going into a game with Draymond Green know, right? His propensity to commit fouls like this are just elevated. It's higher. So obviously you're going to have more eyeballs and a more discerning eye watching what he does.
A man who has literally tried to choke people on a court.
The Chicago Sky this year have flagrantly fouled Caitlin Clark more than any other, 80% of the fouls. And I know when you hone in on the numbers, it's 4 flagrant fouls, but that's 1 per game. So you already know, and this is probably coming from the league, like, hey, the Chicago Sky have committed flagrant fouls because they get the report, they get the game reports. It's not always the same officiating crew. It's, hey, this team has fouled her XYZ this many times this season. So there's going to be a more discerning eye watching these plays like this.
Okay.
So I say that to say the Chicago Sky know that too. So if you want to remove yourself from this conversation and not get in the mud, I mean, Diamond DeShields didn't have to foul Caitlin Clark down 30 with less than a minute to go. They can immediately detach themselves from this conversation by, to what you said, having more discipline and not making boneheaded calls. We're not saying, oh man, that's my team making a boneheaded play. The players need to be the ones thinking that as well.
Do you understand how silly that is? It's like, oh, well, just don't make any boneheaded plays and then people won't put you in this conversation. Yeah. Are you joking? Like, that's literally sports, Gary. How many times have you watched your football team
Sure.
And a very critical down, someone makes a stupid boneheaded mistake and extends a drive. And you go, what are you doing?
Correct.
Why can't you just not make stupid? That's what we're going to do. We're just going to go around and go, oh my God, athletes, if you could just not make dumb plays. I mean, that's literally part of sports, is that sometimes they make bad plays, bad decisions, bad decision making, and that's fine. But what we don't do is we look at those individual things and we go, okay, nuance, like this was a stupid play. And unless it's someone that has been ejected 6-7 times for targeting, we don't lay it at the feet of everyone in college football or everyone in the NFL. We don't lay Draymond Green's propensity for getting into foul trouble on everyone's feet. We don't say that Draymond Green is trying to target Frenchmen or trying to, we just say he's making boneheaded decisions and he needs to do better.
And there's only,
why can't we just say, man, that was a stupid time for a foul and it was totally unnecessary, and leave it there? But that's not what we do. We don't leave it there. Okay, fine.
We can do that.
We can do that.
There are people, and that's who you're mentioning.
The most vocal of them who can't do that.
The vile people who are saying the bad stuff.
But it's not even just that. If you Google Caitlin Clark right now, it's not about the history. It's not about the fever. It's not about what they're doing right now. It's not about the fact that they're climbing the power ranks or they're seeding in the playoffs. It's not about any of that. 20 of the first 25 stories are flagrant fouls. Does the league hate her? All the flagrant fouls are against her. Victim, 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 victim. Caitlin Clark doesn't want to be your victim. Stop making her that. Caitlin Clark is out here balling her ass off. Make it about that. And that is my problem, is that we do not do an entire retrospect every single time. Draymond, we place it on Draymond. It doesn't become about everybody.
Hey, we do a retrospect every time Draymond gets a flagrant and gets ejected.
Well, it's easy to. It's easy to, because the man has a problem with it.
It's easy to do that right now with the Chicago Sky, because they have given us a handful, literally, of examples.
2.
4. I
just told you the other 2 were closeout. And the other one was trying to make a play, a contested layup.
It was objectively, I've seen them. It's objectively a flagrant. And I'm going to go by the book here by saying it was evidenced enough by the officiating crew there to say this was a dangerous play. You're the one who led with dangerous.
Oh my God.
It's dangerous. It's undisciplined. And that's a gray area that could lead to other stuff.
Flagrant does not mean intentional.
I'm not
necessarily.
saying that
flagrant does not mean they are trying to hurt someone. That is what we give every flagrant against Caitlin Clark. We make it an endorsement for the idea that they are trying to hurt her, as opposed to the idea that Angel was going up for a layup. Was going up to contest a layup. She missed and she hit Caitlin in the face. If that is anybody else, we don't even think about that. It's the history between them. So we just want to assume. These are making assumptions.
Okay, I'm going to ask you then a question. Let's take those 2 that are subjectively not flagrants, right? If you know ball, whatever your opinion is on...
By the book, it is a flagrant foul. It is not intentional.
So let's take the 2 that I think we can agree were intentional.
We're not basketball. We're not
fouls.
Basketball plays.
Okay, Kennedy Carter and Diamond DeShields.
Yes.
Okay, so how many examples do we need of actual examples that weren't basketball plays and that did carry an air of vindictiveness, aggression?
Well, to be carrying on that conversation for 6 months, I'd say you need more than 2.
Well, how many do we need?
One of which came in the last 3 days.
How many do we need, though, until it's like, okay, I've seen enough to say, at least with the Sky, they are taking it personal and they don't like her and they do, I'm going to stop short of want to hurt her. But how many examples do we need before we're like, okay, I've seen enough. Maybe they are out to get her.
I don't think that there is a number of examples. I think I need to see specific examples that highlight to me that they are trying to get her.
We just saw 2. I mean, not just saw. We saw Diamond DeShields and Kennedy Carter. So again, how many do we need? Like, is it a 3 strike you're out policy? Do we need 5? What do we need?
But you have to ask yourself that, Gary, when you're saying how many do we need? The question is, how many times are we going to rehash a conversation that, again, sends nasty vitriol into these women's timelines when we are just being lazy? Look at the nuance.
Yep.
Caitlin Clark holds the ball 90% of the time. Yep. So, of course, she is going to be subject to to stronger defense.
More physicality. She's gonna
get hit with more physicality, especially based on what she does. She likes to drive. She runs, her pace, her tempo, and she's the primary ball handler. She's got the ball all the time. And she's really freaking good. She's their best player. So needless to say, she's going to get most of the attention defensively. Yep. All right. When are we going to stop is my question. Looking at these things in a vacuum and just going 5 flagrant fouls. Oh my God. 4 of them from the Chicago Sky. Instead of going, okay, let's look at those 4. That's my problem. You know, I sat here a few weeks ago and had to apologize for not doing my research. Certainly, I wouldn't expect Joe Blow on Twitter to do more research than me. But before you slide into someone's DM and wish that a tumor would kill them, do some research. Before you slide in my DMs and say, oh, I'm just a WNBA apologist and I hate Caitlin Clark, do some research. I'm an actual fan of Caitlin Clark, which is why I keep trying to pivot back to her actual game.
Sure.
Because I appreciate her game. I respect her game. I respect her toughness. I respect the fact that this is the skinniest that she'll ever be in the WNBA, right? Like she's going to put on weight. She's going to put on muscle.
She's going on that Michael Jordan workout plan in the offseason.
They all do.
Yeah, she's going to come back looking like Brian Bosworth.
They all put on weight. They all get bigger. They all get stronger. They all get tougher. They start learning the understanding of the physicality of the league. I'm an actual Caitlin Clark fan because I don't think she's a victim. I think that despite how hard she's being played, how tough their slate was, and how much learning on the fly she had to do, she's still excelling even faster than we thought. And we all knew she'd be this good, by the way. We all knew she would be this good. We didn't know maybe she'd be this good this fast. I'm a real Caitlin Clark fan because I want to make the main thing the main thing. I want to make it about her and what she's doing and not what everybody is doing to her. Stop victimizing this woman. How many more games does she have to put up another 30 ball before you see she is no victim? She is a superstar. Stop it.
You know what you just did? It was a perfect segue. You literally just made my case for her to win the MVP.
Well, I'm going to stop you there.
You shouldn't.
No, I am.
Because she should.
No. I'm actually begging to have that conversation. Like, I kind of eye rolled a little bit like.
No, but she should. I know a couple of weeks ago, I think I was first to market to say she should be in the conversation, but I'm not kidding. It wouldn't surprise me if she won MVP.
Make your argument for why you think that she should. And listen, there's a whole middle area between in the conversation and should get.
And winning it. I think
you think she should win WNBA MVP.
What I'm saying is it would not surprise me and it would not upset me if she won the WNBA MVP. And here's why. I mentioned she has more points accounted for than any other player in WNBA history as a rookie, over 37 points per game. Kelsey Mitchell, the leading scorer on the team, 19 points per game. Caitlin Clark, 18 points per game. An Asia Wilson hater could say, I'm not one, but an Asia Wilson hater could say, the Las Vegas Aces were a 500 team middling, 6-6 to start the season without Chelsea Gray. Chelsea Gray comes back. They win 6 straight. They're 12-6. Since she came back, they're 14-6. Some people, an Asia Wilson hater could say, Asia Wilson isn't even the best, most valuable.
Oh my God.
This is not me.
This is completely.
This is not me. Valuable player. So what do we put?
If someone said that, they would be stupid.
So Elle, what is our definition? And this is right. This is the crux of the argument in any MVP conversation in any league. What is our definition of value? Is it taking your team to the playoffs for the first time since 2016, giving your team an above 500 record for the first time since 2019? If we want to put things on monetary value, it's not even a close conversation. Caitlin Clark has been the most valuable player in the history of the WMVP, monetarily speaking. You just have to look at the money that's being...
that's not what the MVP is voted on.
Correct. But I'm just saying value, right? Value in the sense of they are the 6th seed. They have won 7 of their last 8 games. They've won 4 straight. They are looking to make a deep playoff run. And to the players that you mentioned, and Kelsey Mitchell leading the team in scoring, Luxie Hull catching basically her second wind in her WNBA career, it's Caitlin Clark facilitating all of that. So when I look at value, what a player's value brings to a team and the league, and I know it's not part of the grading or voting metrics, but the definition of value, Caitlin Clark has checked every single one of the boxes for me.
Okay. To contest what you have to say, because I think this conversation of does she belong in the conversation, for our purposes, absolutely. It's fun. It's fun. But the idea that in the 11th hour, we would try to act like Asia Wilson did not wrap this thing up and continues to wrap up and separate herself from the pack is egregious, frankly. It's fun because we don't like to walk into a year knowing someone is a favorite to win MVP, then watch them cement themselves early on. We like intrigue. We want storylines. We want to sell you on something. So yes, for our purposes, it's super fun to have her in that conversation.
Yep.
But let me just walk you through just the last week of A'ja Wilson.
40,
because you want to say, oh, well, they're a middle of the pack team. They're right there with the Fever.
We're a middle of the pack team.
Right. The Fever, at least in our power rankings, have jumped them. They were a middle of the pack team. They're not a middle of the pack team without A'ja Wilson. She is quite literally doing this on her own. And I'm pretty confident that you would hear from fellow Aces players that would tell you the same thing. They've got to step up. Rebecca Lobo told us the same thing. We got to see more from Jackie Young. We got to see more from Kelsey Plum. We got to see more from Chelsea Gray, right? Like this idea they were just going to streak into another championship, their third straight. That is very much in doubt. Still wouldn't sleep on the Aces in the postseason. Like they're one of those teams. It's like the Chiefs.
It's not a team.
It's like the Chiefs last year. We just kept looking for all of these kinks in the armor, and like ultimately they were there, but it mattered very little because once they got to the postseason, they know how to win, and so do the Aces. If this is a year where the Aces have lost 4 games like they did last year, where they are dominating teams, this isn't a question at all.
Okay.
But the only reason that there's even just a little bit of light for anybody else in this MVP race is because despite A'ja's efforts, they are still just a middle of the road team. A'ja's efforts aren't always leading to a winning formula because she's getting almost nothing else. But again, just over the last week, 42 points against the Wings, 26 points, 16 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 blocks against the Dream, 41 points against the Mercury.
Insane.
She has 7 games with at least 30 points and 10 rebounds, which is the most in a single season. She's just the second player to ever have at least 25 points, 15 boards, 5 assists, and 5 blocks in a game. And she is leading the league in 27.5 points per game, which would be the highest single season average we have ever seen in the WNBA. She has been, as someone who's already won this,
otherworldly,
completely otherworldly, and it's not even close. And this to me is the Jokic effect from a couple of seasons ago, where we just got so bored and fatigued with how good he was after winning 2 straight MVPs. And we said, I don't want to have to give Jokic a 3rd straight and put him in that kind of company. And Joel Embiid made a very compelling argument that year. He did. He was leading the league in scoring, and he made a compelling argument. But this is essentially like that same year saying Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should have got it. No. He had a fantastic year. He had a breakout season, and he still shouldn't have won the MVP. Because if it's not A'ja Wilson, Gary, it doesn't just leapfrog and go over to Caitlin. There's a whole person in Minnesota like, hi, I'm Nafisa Collier, and I'm also playing really good. And when you talk about results, look at where the Lynx are right now. And that is because of what Fee has been able to do. She has been playing otherworldly and did miss some games still. And the Lynx are about the most well-rounded team that we're seeing currently, apart from the Fever, who on this currently 4 or 5.
One of the favorites.
One of the favorites, right?
This is the same Aces team, though, that have won multiple championships and are constructed the same as they were last year. But yet still, with the same makeup, A'ja Wilson has to do everything with Olympians, All-Stars, and WNBA champions on her roster. Last year, the Indiana Fever without Caitlin Clark were the 2nd worst team in the WNBA. And now they're a team that right now are on the WNBA 6th seed. A'ja Wilson does everything for her team, and the box score indicates that. Rebounds, points, blocks, steals. When you take a
league-wide too.
When you take a look at the box score after an Aces game, there are multiple single-digit scores, single-digit assists. Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, point guards, distributing, but Jackie Young averages 5 a game. Chelsea Gray averages 4 a game. When you look at an Indiana Fever box score, all 5 starters, double-digit points, double-digit rebounds. Everybody flirting with double-digit assists because Caitlin Clark's value to her other teammates has taken the Indiana Fever from the second.
Well, I mean, they have to make the shots, though, Gary. Yes, like she's an incredible facilitator, but her teammates are making the shots.
Understood.
Conversely, A'ja's teammates are not making the shots. That doesn't impact A'ja's MVP resume. How does that impact her MVP resume?
Because Caitlin Clark is quite literally impacting the value of not just herself or her team, but her other teammates. They were the 2nd worst team in the league, and now they're a team that nobody wants to play in the playoffs. The Las Vegas Aces are defending champs and they have the same exact roster, but A'ja Wilson has to do everything. And the box score is indicative of that. So when you take a look at a most valuable player, it depends on what the value is, right? A'ja Wilson is the most valuable player because she fills up a box score and does everything. And it shows in her stat line. Great. Not taking anything away from that. Caitlin Clark does everything, not just for herself, but for everybody else on the roster.
But that's because she's a point guard.
Correct.
That is literally her job.
Yes.
So if you're just trying to compare the difference between post players and point guards here, but you can't take away from the fact that A'ja Wilson, this is not a team MVP award. This is not who's the most valuable player to their respective team. This is who is the best player in the WNBA.
Yep.
And A'ja Wilson is not only the best player in the WNBA this season, her numbers bear that she's the best player right now that we've seen in the WNBA like ever.
The numbers are insane.
This is the best season we've seen individually from a WNBA player based on all the history she's making like ever. So you're comparing two different things here. Caitlin's impact is going to be far-reaching because she is the facilitator on the team. That's not Asia's job. But A'ja is what in the league? Maybe second in blocks in the league. Like she does a little bit of everything for this.
Everything.
I just think that this is born of fatigue. I think this is us just wanting, we get very apathetic to greatness. Just like when Russell Westbrook won MVP, we were bored of how many triple doubles he was getting. Okay, another triple double.
See, this is less fatigue for me and more excitement that there's actually compelling arguments for more players than just A'ja Wilson. That's a net positive for the WNBA, that you can have conversations that stand on, albeit some would argue, shakier legs than others, of other players with a legit shot to win an MVP. And it's not just A'ja Wilson suiting up again. It's hers. An A'ja Wilson hater would say that. I love A'ja Wilson. All right, the white tee until...
I was gonna say, you're gonna have to watch your tone when it comes to A'ja. She's the queen. She's wearing white tee. She's not even here for these fit checks anymore. Hey, listen, she's like, I'm wearing white tees till we win.
Until her team gets more consistently in the win column.
She has strapped her team
straight
on
up
her back.
Nobody's arguing that.
I think you would have a very hard time convincing someone to leapfrog a person who doesn't even lead their own team in scoring over the person that leads the league in scoring and could potentially have the most points ever in scoring for a single season. I don't see Caitlin Clark leapfrogging Fee and A'ja when at the very least they lead their own teams in scoring as well.
Okay, but Kelsey Mitchell's at 19 and Caitlin Clark at 18.3.
Over the last 7 games alone.
Oh, Kelsey Mitchell has been eating 31 points. Caitlin Clark just came off at 31
Smith
points.
Has scored in double figures in their last 3 games. And we mentioned Lexi Hull, who's a relentless defender, but all of a sudden is scoring in double figures in 4 of the Fever's last 7 games as well. She only did that twice in the last 26. This is the epitome of a team that is clicking on all cylinders and playing incredibly well. If you're just trying to be predictive on what that's going to mean in the postseason, then you always have to take Joel Embiid out of the conversation for MVP because we already know they're going to the bet in the postseason. But that's not what it's about. It's a regular season award, not based on what we think. It's a regular season award. And you cannot tell me that there is another person in the WNBA this year that has had individually, because it is an individual award, a better season than A'ja Wilson, period. She passes the eye test. She passes the stat test. She passes it all.
She just don't pass the ball.
Okay. I'm done.
I'm playing. No. I'm playing. I love A'ja Wilson. I'm literally just throwing. I'm just throwing in fodder for conversation. A'ja Wilson can lead the league in scoring, and Caitlin Clark can lead the league in points accounted for. And then you just have to ask yourself, what do you put more value in?
A'ja Wilson literally doing everything she can.
A'ja Wilson is crazy.
I'm going to go with A'ja Wilson. I'm going to go with the finals MVP.
Yo, we're getting the Emmys acceptance speech, rap music. We had like 3 more blocks, honestly, but
it's over.
I think we're running out of studio time.
I think we are too. Listen,
and and actually after that, I think I got to shut my comments off. Yo, for real.
You're gonna have
I think I'm gonna have to shut my comments off.
Well, me too. I always have to answer for you.
What are you talking about?
Why didn't you tell him? I'm like, I'm trying, y'all. I'm out here trying. Okay,
I read the comments.
Like Jon Snow on the Battle of the Bastards with Gary's bad takes. I'm trying, y'all.
Bad takes.
I'm just trying.
Yeah, right.
This is just me.
I'm in those YouTube comments, and I appreciate the support, y'all. I really do.
Well, the same people that support him are the same ones that call me names. Can y'all stop?
Oh, shut the hell up.
Let's take a brief break and reset, and when we come back, We're talking a little CFB.
No, we're not. Elle, I'm tired. I'm fatigued. I'm tired.
I'm calling a flagrant.
Damn.
Oh, man. Labor Day weekend is over. It marks the official return of college football. Not week 0, week 1 this time.
Come on.
Side note, go Dogs. Still have only
they're
lost.
looking nice, but also Clemson doo-doo.
They're so butt.
They're doo-doo. But they can be like, at least we ain't Florida State.
Well, I was going to say one of my favorite memes of the weekend before Florida State's game happened against Boston College was a picture of Dabo. And it was like a meme. Like he looks like he's explaining himself at the press conference.
Oh, God.
And the quote's like, "They say I'm washed. That's right. Washed in the blood of our Lord and Savior."
Hey, fact.
Which was amazing. Clemson, they're not good. It's all bad. And honestly, Georgia let them off the hook. Georgia could have beat them by 50, but certainly our offense didn't wake them to the second half. But man, Clemson's still not feeling as bad as Florida State because Clemson ranked outside of the top 10. Florida State not. We knew Florida State was going to be impacted by their season opening loss to Georgia Tech, but there was lots of question marks of like, oh, well, you know, they were in Ireland and it was the first game. There's just like a whole new thing and vibe. And just like, you know, Georgia Tech's better this year. So let's just wait and see.
Yeah.
And then they lost to Boston College. Not in hockey.
Correct.
But in football.
And Elle, have you ever, I'm sure you have, come across opportunities in your life where you're like, had I made that investment, had I bought that piece of property, had I accepted this offer, financial freedom would have been at my grasp. I saw that this weekend and I completely freaking blew it. When I saw Florida State opened as 17-point favorites over BC, and I knew DJ Uiagalelei was going to get another crack at the starting quarterback position, I was like, this is my opportunity to achieve financial freedom for my family. I need to bet every single dollar that I have, which is in the high triple digits, okay, and bet Boston College to cover. And I totally forgot, Elle. I'm pissed because they won outright, and I wouldn't be here right now, Elle. I would have had at least $1,000 to my name, okay? I missed an opportunity. I'm so mad at myself.
I know.
Everybody saw that coming.
Yeah.
At least I hope they did.
Yeah. Well, especially we sat down to watch the game. My husband's like, "Wait, is that Bill O'Brien like the former Texans coach?" I was like, "Yeah, man, they got the NFL at Boston College now." But Dabo was my favorite social media thing.
Yes.
Until at 321 Noel.
Where you at?
No one knows where this man is.
No, for real, where you at, bro?
After tweeting, "If Florida State loses to BC this weekend, I will eat dog out of a red Solo cup with a spoon and post a video of me doing it." Now, the first thing I thought when I saw this was, he's definitely seen Two Girls, One Cup.
Oh, my God.
It was too specific.
Elle.
That sounds a bit like a reenactment of that video.
Our bosses listen to this show. You got to stop.
The second thing I thought was, zero chance this man does it. And I was proven right because the coward has disappeared.
Correct.
He's off Twitter. No one can find at 321 Noel.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to say, like, this is a prime example, especially when your team's not that great, of writing checks that your ass can't handle.
We talked about this.
We don't do this, Gary.
Exactly.
We are the people who textbook gloat afterwards.
It's the smart and safe move.
100%. I'm not making any predictions that are going to put me in a precarious situation.
Yes.
I'm going to be a silent assassin. I'm going to wait till the end, and then I'm going to talk my shit just like I did after we mollywopped Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
But alas, should we stick our internet sleuths on this
the
case?
Answer is yes.
Can someone find at 321 Noel or any of his various burner accounts? Because he definitely feels like a guy that has those. He's probably in our comment section right now talking about Caitlin Clark. Can we find this man? And honestly, this feels illegal, but can we force him to eat dog?
I think that we should. I don't think, listen, accountability has escaped this country. And I think this guy could be a beacon of hope and a touch of salvation if he owns up to his words, Elle. Be a man of his words. And I honestly thought this guy might have been from Philadelphia because remember that Eagles fan that ate the horse poop after the Super Bowl? I'm like, listen, man, it's not out of the question. But then he cowered. He disabled all of his accounts. And I just want to know, like, when this country became such cowards, okay? This guy's encapsulating so much of what I feel on the inside. And we need to find him. and we need to force him to live up to his word. What are we teaching our kids?
Yeah, it's true.
If you say something,
right, you have to
you
do
gotta
it.
own up to it.
Yeah.
And that's why we talk after the fact, so we don't have to eat after the fact.
Literal. You know what? You're right.
Thank you.
I think you just gave me a little bit of advice for parenting. One day when we find this man, I'm going to sit sweet little Eva and Xander in front of the YouTube. I'm going to say, kids, watch Accountability at Work. And I'm going to force them to watch this man eat. I'm not going to do that. That's
okay.
I'm not gonna do any of that,
I didn't know where you were going with
They would think it was hilarious, by the way.
They would.
Is he really doing it?
Yeah, that looked like pudding. Well, it's not.
By the way, before we get out of here, just a quick side note. I don't know how many of the people that listen to this show go to school with my kids. There's a couple that do. We definitely have some like sports fans that are at the school. But I just want just a quick little parenting note, as today is the first day of school for my children. My kids who are 6 and 3, currently their favorite songs are Proud Mary and Doing the Butt from EU. And so if Eva at any point like laments about having to work for the man every night and day, or if Xander just exuberantly busts out into you've got a big old butt, I would just say, oh yeah.
Let a man be a man. All right. He's 3, but he's a fast learner.
Let it breathe.
You know what I'm saying?
Just let it breathe.
Yeah.
I'm like bracing for this call from his school. Like, Xander keeps talking about people's butts.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
That's my guy.
That's Omar. He's like, man.
Do it while you can get away with it, brother.
It's true. While it's still adorable and not creepy.
You only got a couple years.
Gare Bear.
Talk to me.
See you on Thursday.
Can't wait.
All right. Remember, you guys, to rate, review, subscribe. Tell somebody about the show.
Get in those comments.
I cannot wait to see all of your really measured, mature, and nuanced comments surrounding all of the subject matter in today's show. It's going to be a thrill.
We'll be reading all of them.
And by we, he means Gary.
That's just me.